Hi everyone, welcome back to Front Page MMA. Today we're joined by Will Brooks, who's just signed for ARES Fighting Championship. So first of all, Will, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks for asking. Basically, the first question I have is, how's being stuck indoors with quarantine kind of affected your training routine?
You know what, man? I'll be honest with you. There's been maybe 3 or 4 of us that we've continued to train. We've shut down the gym to, I guess, for our classes and things like that. So we're not having people come in, but we've got a handful of guys that are in the UFC that are still having to prepare for fights. So we can't just let those guys sit around. They got to be prepared. So we've opened a gym to just a couple guys, and we've been continuing to stay in, just keep these guys in shape. So I've continued to go in there and help these guys. And it's been tricky, but we're doing the best we can and just making sure that we're protecting each other, but also just you got to do what you got to do, man. We got an odd job.
So just kind of making the best of a difficult situation, really, yeah.
Yeah, man, definitely, man. And the thing that is really good is that we're training with Tony Martin, who's got a fight coming up. He's in the UFC. Douglas Lima is probably going to be defending a title or attempting to get the middleweight title, I believe it is, with Bellator. So these guys got to stay sharp, and I've been blessed to be one of those guys to be able to train with these guys. So we're doing the best we can.
Yeah, definitely. So you recently signed, obviously, like I said, with ARES Fighting Championship. How did that deal come about?
Oh man, it was kind of a surprise situation, I was actually preparing myself to go and fight a couple regional fights, and try to get myself back on track and maybe put myself in position to sign with a bigger organization. So I was like, all right, well, right now I'm in a odd situation where I didn't feel like some of the offers that I had gotten just made sense. So I was like, you know what, maybe I just want to rebuild and just start from the beginning and just build up. So we prepared for that. I was going to fight for a small organization in Alabama. And all of a sudden I just got a text message from one of the matchmakers from ARES, and they were really interested in me. The same matchmaker, he was the matchmaker for KSW, I believe, and he's over with ARES now, and he's just like, he looked me up and thought of me and gave me an opportunity, and conversation with him and my management, and it just kind of worked out really well, and we felt like it was the best opportunity to give me an opportunity to rebuild my career and put things back on track, and financially be taken care of during the process also. So it was kind of like a no-brainer situation.
So that's kind of what I was going to ask. Like, since you left the UFC, you fought for PFL, Battlefield Fighting Championships. What was it that made ARES the most attractive? Like, what made them the perfect home, really, at this point in your career?
They were just really comfortable with me and kind of gave me the vibe that like I've always been a guy where I like being a part of something that's growing, and they've only had one card so far, and I think the idea and the landscape and the foundation that they've built so far is something that is going to be ideal. I think as far as them working with bringing fights to South Africa and things like that, I think there's a large mixed martial arts community there that not a lot of people understand and know about, and I think they're doing a lot of things where they're trying to reach areas where mixed martial arts has grown, but not a lot of people are being exposed to it. So, and it offers a great opportunity to travel to different places, and I'm a huge fan of traveling. So if you're going to give me a chance to come out and compete and pay me, I love to fly out to South Africa or Belgium or wherever else that, so I just really wanted to, rebuild myself along with building something new, and it just kind of meshed together, so it's just a great opportunity.
So, like you said, the ARES is a very young organisation, and they've been signing a lot of UFC veterans like yourself. What do you think the future could hold for ARES if they keep signing these top guys and posting these events in their own way? What kind of level do you think they can reach?
I think if they keep going the way they're going, with grabbing up guys like myself and a lot of other like experienced vets, and really kind of reaching out to us and giving us an opportunity to help them build, they could do something really special. Like I said, They're, I believe, if I'm correct, they're like a European, South African based organization that's really trying to operate in those areas of France, which I'm pretty sure they've just recently allowed for mixed martial arts to take place in events out there. So they have a great opportunity to really impact markets that the UFC and Bellator and different places like that have not had opportunity to kind of get into right now. So they have a great opportunity to do something really special. And I go back to, for example, the card that I'm supposed to be on in the future, you know, if all this coronavirus situation gets figured out, is going to be in South Africa. So something like that to give fighters an opportunity to show that, look, mixed martial arts is pretty big in Africa and things like that. They're going to be able to impact a larger market, you know, and just continue to grow as we go. And in mixed martial arts right now, it's really good to have more promotions all over the place and giving guys more opportunities. So it's just the whole, you know, if they can stay like grounded in what their foundations are, they'll do great.
So, like you said, the event that you're going to be, the event you were going to fight on, that was planned for Belgium, if I'm correct. So, is the plan now, after it's all said and done, to have that event in South Africa instead now?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm just speaking on what was last said to me, but I can't speak 100%. You know, again, with everything that's going on, it's a constant moving situation right now. So I think it's really kind of a wait and see situation, you know. But for me, that was like what I thought would be the next step. But again, I don't want to speak for anybody. They might have to end up moving some things or changing some things. So I'm not 100% sure, but that was something that was brought to my attention of as a possibility.
Yeah, well, you were scheduled to compete against Martin van Staden, who's a very dangerous opponent. What was it that made him an ideal opponent for you? Because obviously he's never been knocked out before. Like 15 of his 19 wins have came by way of knockout. What was it that made that sort of challenge what you wanted next?
You know, man, it was just for me. It's just I always go after guys who have, you know, hadn't been knocked out, hadn't been this, and hadn't been that, and it's just I like good competition, you know. And he just felt like a guy that was just really well rounded, one of those guys that you really have to sit down and really educate yourself on what they bring to the table, and really have to watch tape and dive deep into not just skill set things like that, but also their mentality, the way that they carry themselves. So you have to dive a little bit deeper with guys like that. Because in me personally, I believe guys who have never been knocked out or never been haven't had this many things or have been able to knock people out, they're just a different type of breed. They think differently, they operate differently, they move differently. So you can't just go based off of watching video. You have to kind of try to find a way to dive into like their whole psyche makeup, you know. So I've always been interested in those type of fights, so just felt like it was just a great opportunity, you know.
So I know you said it's all a bit kind of wait and see at the moment, but is that the fight you expect to take place after it's all sorted, or is that the fight you want to have arranged again after it's all fixed?
Yeah, no, honestly, man, I it really wouldn't matter to me if that's the same fight. That's the same fight. It never really is one of those things where I put too much thought into. But if that's the fight that they want to continue to continue to promote and they want to make that fight, then I'll continue to go that way. Or if they decide that they want to change something or make some adjustments, then I'll do that also. You know, for me, I'm just focused on getting back to being a dominant fighter. You know, that's my main goal right now, and I think I finally got my mind and my spirit and just my overall environment of living just in a place where I genuinely feel like I could get back to a spot where I'm just a dominant fighter. So that's where I'm kind of focused right now.
Yeah, well, obviously you're planning to fight August 1st, and then I'm sure you could have imagined the fight wasn't going to go ahead with the way things were going, but how were you kind of informed that the event was cancelled, and what was your immediate reaction?
What was my reaction to when the event was canceled?
Yeah, like how you were told about it, like how were you told, and then what did you feel when you found out?
Yeah, like I guess like when I found out that it was canceled, I kind of kind of felt like I kind of expected it, you know, just because everything that was going on, it just felt like with everything as the COVID-19 and Corona, like the coronavirus and everybody having to be kind of staying in homes and things like that and not being able to travel, I just kind of figured that it would start to escalate and get to a point where like MMA cards were going to have to be postponed and things like that. So I kind of prepared myself from the beginning. So once they actually came out in media and came out on social media and just made it like clear to everybody that they were going to postpone, I didn't really feel too much about it. You know, I was kind of expecting it. So I didn't really react in any type of way. I just, you know, shrugged my shoulders like, well, you know, whatever, you know, they're looking to protect everybody, which is reasonable and it makes sense. And I'll just stay in the gym and be ready for whatever happens in the future. So, you know, it is what it is. I've got a contract with them. So, you know, they're going to call me when they call me, you know, so it's just kind of hang out and wait, you know.
Yeah, well, I spoke to Sam Alvey a few days ago, the UFC fighter. He said because of the kind of financial uncertainty, he'd actually been applying to different stores to work a kind of regular job. So he said, have ARES Fighting Championship said to you that you're going to be kind of financially compensated or looked after through this kind of uncertainty?
No, I honestly I haven't had any. I didn't really think about it, you know. I'll be honest, you know. I'm a man of faith, you know. I believe God has blessed me with a lot of provisions in my life financially to where I don't have to panic. I don't have to worry. Just because, you know, I've been a Bellator lightweight champion, so I was making good money. And, you know, once I went over to the UFC, that's one thing that I've been really, really blessed with. And I think that God has continued to move in my life is that regardless of what organizations I've gone to, I've been fortunate to make a good living. And me and my wife have done really smart things with our money, and we're financially in places where, you know, we when things like this happen, we don't panic. We don't have to, you know, get too worked up, you know. And so it's not one of those things where I've thought about much about it, you know. I definitely understand that there may be other fighters that aren't in the situations that I'm in, you know, to be able to, you know, kind of take it as all right, well, it is what it is, and move forward. There are guys like that would have to go and find another job. So I pray that, you know, Aries or somebody or something happens that he'll find the financial support that he needs during this time. But yeah, for me, I haven't really been that much impacted by it, and I just give all praise and glory to God to just that He's continued to walk in my life at every step, you know. So yeah, man, I pray that those individuals get it sorted out.
So it's quite an interesting topic that I've thought about quite a lot in the past. How do you believe that having a strong kind of religious faith could help not a UFC fighter, but an MMA fighter? How does having a strong like religious faith help you in your career?
Yeah, for me, it's been one of those things where I've always had a pretty strong faith, but one of the things that I noticed once I started having success, I kind of started moving away from it. You just started to get a little bit arrogant. You get like, oh, I'm just doing all this on my own. But recently, I've gotten back to understanding where my strength and my power and my blessings come from. And I think for fighters, I think for anyone, it's helpful because we can sometimes put a lot of pressure on ourselves as individuals, you know, and it can become an unhealthy thing, you know. And sometimes I believe that, you know, if you can have something that you believe in as a higher power, and for me that is God, and believing that He is constantly moving in my life, it allows me to not feel as much pressure and put as much on my shoulders, and know that, look, He's given me everything that I need, all the tools physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually that I need to go out and do the things that I need to do. And He's also blessed me with my wife, who's an incredible person that's been a massive support in my life, and my family and friends, you know. So the more that for me, the more I trust in Him, the more I feel like, okay, I could do all things, you know. I can really go out and just be free and be fun spirited and have fun while I compete, and not have it become a thing where it's it's a burden on me almost, where it's too heavy sometimes. I can share the load with him and say, hey, I don't know what to do right now. I don't have all the answers. Can you help me out? And then my personal belief is that he'll start to move things in front of you. He may not speak directly to you, but he may speak to you through, for me, my wife, she speaks to me. For me, my daughter might say something and it's like, oh, okay, I hear you talking to me, So I think for fighters and people in general to have a faith and have something else just gives you opportunity to kind of, take a little bit of pressure off. Not all the pressure, of course. You want to have some pressure, but know that, you have somebody that's got your back always, So that's kind of my thought process in regards to my faith and where I'm at.
So do you think obviously it helps you mentally, because of course if a fight doesn't go the way you want it to go, you don't really necessarily beat yourself up as much. You just kind of think, well, that's what he's got planned for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, as far as the fight not going my way, I still think like anybody else, I'm like, man, that sucked. I get bummed out.
Yeah,
I
of
think,
course.
I see it as like, yeah, God has blessed me with a lot of athleticism and a lot of abilities and a lot of skill, So when I put those skills on out there and I go and compete and I don't win, I still feel disappointed, I just think that disappointment doesn't last as long, It's one of those things where it's more like, dang, I just didn't get the job done, But I never take it as like, all right, well, God just didn't want me to win that fight. I don't see it that way. What I see it is the reason why I can bounce back quicker is because I know and I turn around and I look at the life that I have. There's a lot of things in my life that if it's on paper, I shouldn't have been able to do in life. I shouldn't have been able to go to Japan and fight, come home and fight, compete and fight in Bellator, become a Bellator lightweight champion, or fight in UFC, or fight for PFL, and continue to just have these opportunities to continue to fight at high levels and get, financially taken care of, and for those things to keep happening, I step back after a loss. I'm like, all right, well, you know what? He's brought me so far. He's brought me so far from where I was supposed to be. I can't. It's hard to stay in like a dark place when you know that, like, I turn around, I see my wife and I see my daughter and I see my son, and I think about when situations like the coronavirus situation comes up and fights are postponed, and I'm like, oh, well, you know what, man, like financially we don't have to panic, we don't have to worry. And I started thinking to myself, like, that's because God is taking care of me through every step of the way, even when I wasn't being faithful to him and trusting that he had my back. Even when I had steered and walked away from him, he called me back home and he forgave me for straying away, and he's continued to bless me. So that's my mindset. So, it just kind of, like I said, it just kind of helps, gives you a little bit of wiggle room,
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the questions that I had picked for you in particular, but there's some questions I like to ask fighters just generally to kind of get to know you a bit better.
Yeah.
First one is, like, what was it that got you into MMA, first of all, and what was the point where you decided this is really going to become a career for me? What was the point you really put all your focus in it in terms of a job?
Oh man, when I first got into mixed martial arts, it was really, honestly, just to kind of sum it up, it was one of those things where life was just having a hard time in life, and hit a point where I wasn't sure what I was going to do with myself. I was so used to being an athlete, and I had these goals of going to the NFL and all these different things, and just circumstances weren't right, didn't work out well. I made poor decisions, did a lot of knucklehead things, and again, it was a time where I believe that God stepped into my life and started talking to me through someone else that had been a part of my life, a guy named Nick Redding that I had went to high school with. He just saw that I was having a difficult time and invited me to come to a mixed martial arts gym because I had a wrestling background. He wanted me to come in, get in shape, and just kind of, lift my spirits, do some wrestling, things like that. And there was one day a guy he was preparing for a fight. He ended up getting hurt. One of the coaches asked me if I wanted to step in for him. It was an amateur fight. And at first I turned them down. And they were like, well, you have a great wrestling background. All you got to do is go out there, take the guy down, hold him down, maybe ground and pound a little bit. And then, that's it. That's all you got to do. So I went out, I did it. And the guy was like 9-0, and he was like a big time prospect. He was like he was like a world beater, and he was supposed to be the next UFC guy, all this stuff, you know. And I went out there, and not to sound arrogant, but I dusted him, you know. I smoked him. So my coaches came back, and they were kind of shocked by how well I did, and they just said to me like, "Hey, man, if you really focus on this and really do, you could really do some special things with this, you know." And I was like, "Well, I didn't even get paid for it. I had like, it was an amateur fight." And they were like, "Well, you'll start to get paid as you go on." So I just kind of stuck with it. I started thinking to myself like, man, I don't have any, I don't want to work a 9 to 5. I didn't want a regular job. I wanted to compete and be an athlete. And I started thinking, all right, well, I think God is moving me in a different direction. Maybe I'm not a pro NFL player, but I could be a pro fighter. You know, I could be a pro athlete in a different area. So I just stuck with it and finally turned pro and started getting paid. And, you know, the money increases and opportunities increase, and you just keep going. And financially, you get to a point where you feel good and you can just keep going. So that's kind of where we went with it. And I've kind of run with it ever since.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're only 33 at this point, so you've still got a number of years left in the sport. What are your goals at this point? Obviously, immediately the goals are to rack up a number of wins and get back on track, but ultimately, like, what would you like to look back on after you finish your career and say, well, I'm glad I got that done?
Yeah, you know, man, like I think I'm at a point now where my main goal is, you know, for me in my mind, if I'm being honest, you know, when I go to the UFC and I'm super hyped, I'm super psyched, you know, and I think I had a lot of momentum coming along with me. And I'll be honest, look, I didn't do well, and everybody knows that I didn't do well, you know, and that's a bit of a disappointment for me because I look at every organization that I've gone to, and I've always had winning records, you know, and to look at that, I think to myself, and again, I'm focused on ARES, you know. But you know, if God forbid anything was to happen, if I was to say something, if I wanted to try to do something, I'd try to get back to the UFC just because, you know, I would hate to leave this sport and say that I left it the way I left it. So if there's an opportunity to get back there, I'm definitely going to take it. I'll be honest about it. But my main goal is just really to say that I took a gift that God gave me. I built it up to a platform to where I can take everything that I've done, all my experiences, the things that I've learned, and I could turn around and impact some young kids who are looking to get into the sport and keep the sport alive, you know, and really build it to a point where, you know, it's not all just this entertainment gimmicky type of situation that it's turning into. And I just want to be able to walk away and say, look, I changed lives with these gifts that God gave me. So I got a few more years left in me. That's a fortunate thing that I think, again, I contribute that to God blessing me with, I don't know, good genetics or whatever, but I haven't taken serious damage. I haven't taken serious injuries. You know, I've taken losses, but I haven't been banged up, and I've been blessed to be one of those guys that's just a pure athlete. So if I hop up on the couch, I can hang with anybody, you know. But if I'm in full shape, I'm in mentally and spiritually in a good place, I can beat a lot of guys. So I'm just going to stay focused on that and just keep pushing and until this thing is over with, and just try to accomplish as much as I can with the time that I've got left.
So I know you see your focus is on ARES right now, but is the kind of main thing you're getting at is that you don't feel like you demonstrated your skills to the extent you could have in the UFC? You don't think you've made the best account of yourself? Like, people don't really know what your skills are?
Yeah, definitely, man. I feel like I just didn't get it done. You know, I'm always a guy that I take responsibility for, you know, the end result. Look, I didn't get the job done. The UFC did what they were supposed to do and release me like any organization is supposed to do that. You know, this is a business. You know, if you have somebody that's not doing their job well, and, you know, I'm not going to keep paying you if you're not doing your job well. You know, it just is what it is. And they released me, you know, so but overall, I do believe that I have a lot more left in the tank, and I do believe that I have skills that can beat a lot of guys. You know, I look back at some of the fights that I had in the UFC, and if I'm really being honest, I felt like with my second fight, you know, the Ross Pearson fight wasn't that great, and I'll be honest about that. You know, I make no excuses for it. I just didn't perform very well on. You know, I thought like having 2 weeks. You know, it was a 2-week notice fight. I was like, nah, I'm in great shape. I'll go out there and I'll do really well. But look, man, it just didn't. I just didn't feel really good. But even with the losses that I took, I felt like I was fighting really well. You know, the Cowboy Oliveira fight. I felt like I was fighting pretty well. You know, there's a couple, you know, circumstances that go into that fight that kind of created a little bit of difficulties for me. But overall, I felt like I was in that fight for fighting a guy that missed weight by 5 or 6 pounds. And then,
Yeah.
you know, I suffered a little bit of an injury during the fight, but I felt like I was still there. And, you know, Charles Oliveira, like, I'll just be honest, that dude just choked me, bro. Like, that dude got on my back and he's like an octopus, man. I think we all see that guy. Once he gets on you, he's on you. And it was like, I had no idea how fast he could be like that, you know, and he jumped on me and he got the better of me, you know, and, you know, you roll over into the Nick Lentz fight and you know, I'm smashing that kid. I'm beating him up. I'm hitting him with everything. And that just came down to me being arrogant and not thinking clearly. And just doing something that I wasn't supposed to do and shot a double leg when we know Nick Lentz has a great guillotine choke that I spent 7 years training with the guy before I fought him, you know. So it was something that we trained for a long time, saying that, hey, just don't shoot a sloppy takedown because he's going to jump on your neck because that's the only way he can beat you. And what do? I go out there and I get arrogant and I'm like, yeah, I'll beat this guy everywhere. I'm punching him, hitting him, kicking him, doing everything. And I hit a sloppy takedown and he snatches my neck. So, you know, you kind of just, you take account of those different things. You start thinking like, maybe if I just make a small adjustments here or there, I might end up like 2-3 or 1 or whatever, you know. So I look back on it, I'm like, you know what, man, if the opportunity came back and I could go back, I'm definitely going to take that opportunity. But, you know, right now I'm just focused on competing for ARES and doing what I have to do for them and helping them build their program and build what they're trying to do and just be the best athlete that I could possibly be, man.
Yeah, well, you'll be glad to hear. There's only 2 questions left before I let you go back about your day that I ask every fighter who comes on. The first one is, could you give me a funny story you've got through your career to do with weigh-ins, in particular weight cutting, a funny weight cutting story? If it's someone in your gym or yourself, just a good story about weight cutting.
Oh, a good story. It's a good story, but it's like it's kind of like a terrible, like a bad weight cutting story, you know. Like, so my first big fight that I had, was in Japan. I thought like that was my very first big fight, and I didn't know. So it was at lightweight. So here in the States, you get a pound allowance.
Mm-hmm.
So forever I was weighing in at 56 or 55 point something because I've never really been able to make 55 flat until I had to, you know, fight for a title. And so we get to Japan and I was on weight and I go to get on the scale and all these, you know, the Japanese promoters that didn't really speak English, they were like, no, you missed weight, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I'm 55. I think I was 55.6. And they were like, no, lightweight here is 154 because the numbers and everything is changed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm making weight. There's no way. Like, I'm damn near dying just trying to make it to 55.6. So they sent me to a bathhouse and I go to get in the sauna and I took off all my shirts and it turned out like we're in this bathhouse, this men's bathhouse. And I'm like, I've got tattoos all over the place. And again, like all these Japanese guys get up and they're screaming and they're cursing and yelling at me because I'm like all tatted up and they want you to cover your body when you come in with tattoos. Yeah. So we're just in this place and I wasn't sweating. I was pretty much just cooking. Like my body was like smoking. And my buddy finally came up with an idea. He was like, hey, he fought at 45. So he's like, look, man, like I'm already on weight. So I'll get on the scale for you. So I try to like make a distraction. So I got on the scale. I got off quickly. I tried to make a distraction. All the promotion and everybody looked at me and he jumped on the scale and tried to lock in his weight. So when they turned around and looked at the digital scale, it would have said like 55 or 55. So they finally turned around, they look at the scale and it erased. So they ended up making me go back. So we just like it was just a long hassle, and they finally came back. It was like, no, we talked to your manager, you're fine, like it's all good. But then we realized that they did that to a lot of American fighters
All
that
right.
were scheduled to fight a Japanese fighter. They kind of was trying to like burn you out, or gas you out, and get you all worn out. So it was kind of like the one time that I had a weird like weigh-in story that I guess isn't that great, that funny, but it was
No,
just
that's a
a
good one.
weird, odd situation to be in.
Yeah, that's one of the better stories I've got actually. So I like that one. Well, the last question I've got is if you could test your skills against any opponent, kind of past or present, who would you like to kind of go up against just to test your skills against theirs?
Oh, man, you know the guy that I always go back to is BJ Penn.
Yeah.
When I first got into mixed martial arts, I didn't know anything about mixed martial arts when I first got into it. And the very first fight that I saw that really kind of made me believe that I could do this professionally was it wasn't BJ Penn, it was Matt Hughes versus GSP.
Mm.
And I heard commentating, I think it was Joe Rogan or somebody was saying that, look, guys who can wrestle make a really good transition into mixed martial arts. It's just like, dude, I'm a hell of a wrestler. Like, I can wrestle all day, you know. So I got into it, but the guy that I watched all the time was BJ Penn. Like his boxing, his head movement, his takedown defense, his grappling on the ground, his jiu-jitsu. He was just this full package guy, you know, and I just loved the way he moved, the way his like his demeanor and his posture that he had when it came to his boxing, and slipping punches just enough, but not slipping too much, and countering really well, and you know, even to the way he would check kicks, because not a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people recognize the way he would check kicks. Like he would almost like rubber his leg, you know, like take the kick, but like let it like scoop his leg. I don't know. It was just something about him that made me like always really love him. So I think he's one of those guys that I would have loved to be able to compete against him and go and, you know, test my skills against him.
Yeah, well, basically that's kind of all I've got sorted. So all that's
All
left is
right.
kind of say thank you for coming on, thanks for the time, and then I hope you have a good day and best of luck with Aries.
All right, man. Thank you, man. Be safe. I don't know where you located. Where you at?
Glasgow, Scotland.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you guys
Yeah,
have been impacted by all this stuff, you know, but you know, be safe, man. Take care of yourself, and you know, hopefully all this stuff gets sorted out, man. And God bless, man. Thank you for the time.
yeah, same to you as well. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.